Bullshit. Sweeping is bullshit. What's up, Thrashers? Uh, I'm not a great sweep picker. I can sweep pick, and that's what today's video is about, being able to sweep pick somewhat okay. Ah, it's wide there. So I'm going to go over all the facets of sweep picking, because a buddy of mine is trying to learn like a necrophagus song and it opens with a sweep, but he also just wants to learn how to sweep. And I figure I haven't uploaded a video in a while, so yeah. First question in your mind probably is, why on earth am I on my clean tone right now? Well, that's because the clean tone doesn't lie to you. Practicing a technique on a clean tone will let you know exactly if you are or are not picking a note or hitting a note. If you have distortion, any of your mistakes can be covered up by the distortion, making you think that you hit a note harder and cooler than you did. Same thing with delay. If you practice with like a little bit of delay, it makes everything way easier. That's fine for if you have a technique down, you want it to be a little bit easier on you when you've got it, but until that point, practice with clean. So, let's start with the right hand first, because the right hand, it's about hand synchronization, but some people have difficulty with the right hand pattern when it comes to sweeps. So, for most full sweep shapes, you're just going from the A string to the high E. So you need to get good at a sweeping motion that produces what Alex Skolnick called like the popping bubble effect. So he muted the strings with his hand and just until he figured out how to do that. I like to do it with sort of a flat picking angle, no twist to it, just like parallel with the strings, which usually isn't good. And then I like to actually like change how the pick is oriented. So I'll actually kind of like do something like this. Some guys would rather not do that and keep their wrist rigid and just push through the strings using the edge like this, where they'll have like how I have it right here, where the pick is parallel, you know, and I'm having a lot of resistance unless I have this like angle like this. Other people prefer to keep it like this and then do a twist so that the edge of the pick glides over and you can sweep without having to like move your wrist like this instead of like that. Those are the two different kinds of sweeping motions. Either at the top, you switch how the pick looks like that. You see it. You see how the pick is changing angle. Or you keep it rigid and twist it to use the edge to push through like this. I don't like that way as much, but you can do it whichever way you like it. Now, you need to understand how many pick strokes are going to be on each string. Most patterns will have either 2 or 1 note on a string. Rarely will you ever have 3 notes on a string on a regular sweep arpeggio shape. There are exceptions to this rule, but for now we're going over the basics. So, once you have this motion down, you can isolate it on any pairs of strings. So the first shape I'm going to show you only really covers the highest 3 strings, the thinnest ones. So you can just practice trying to comfortably move your pick across these top 3 strings like so, whichever way you like to do it, whether you're one of these guys or you're one of these guys. Just figure some way to do it. Now as for the left hand, for this shape, we're doing an Yngwie Malmsteen diminished 7 kind of shape, which I will go over quite slowly here first. So I'm making it very difficult on myself because I prefer for my ring finger to hop over the strings like so. Yngwie Malmsteen, with his big hands, likes to put his thumb over the neck and use his pinky. So he has this little pinky thing going on where every finger has its own thing. The only finger that's leaping is the pointer finger across. You can do it whichever which way you like, whichever which way is the most comfortable for you. I prefer this way most of the time, and maybe sometimes I'll do the pinky way, but it feels too cramped for me because I don't have giant Swedish hands Finnish hand, wherever Yngve's from, whatever Iceland mountain he descended from when he was a shred god. So now that you have these two components, you are going to practice dutifully getting repetitions in one spot. And it's a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a ba-da-da-da-da-da, you know, quarter notes or whatever. And then you're going to learn to slide this up whichever way you feel. Now, what's important to note is if you are moving the shape up, it's best when you start it descending. So watch this. That idea, because you're not repeating any notes. If you start it going up and then you slide up, you're repeating this note. That's fine. Like, no one's gonna like call party foul on you for doing that. They both work. I just think it sounds better when you start descending and then do your slide up for your repetition. Now, if you're finding trouble with the left hand speed and you know your right hand technique is solid, what you can instead do with this particular shape, it doesn't work for every shape when it comes to sweeping, but you can isolate the left hand and not use the right hand at all. So you can take your right hand and mute over all the strings so you don't have any string noise, and you can play the shape purely with legato to make sure that your left hand has the speed. There could be so many different problems with why you cannot play an arpeggio. Your right hand could not be consistent timing-wise, your left hand could not be quick enough, or they're just not synced up together. If it's a problem with sync, you just need to repeat it a lot. If it's a problem with left hand speed, forget the picking and do this. If it's a problem with the picking, you can keep repeating, which I find helps instead of isolating the right hand, but Alex Skolnick isolated the right hand to learn it, so you can do it that way if you want to. Now, after you have this diminished shape down, it's admittedly a quite easy shape to sweep, especially if you have the pinky method and you have like a nice little thing, or maybe you're barring across, you know, and then have the pinky and have like a mute kind of thing. What Yngve would do is bar his pointer finger, and usually he'd play these arpeggios like muted. So he would have like every stroke be muted so he wouldn't have to worry about the sound of this bar happening. But for your purpose, you should probably do it open and have some sort of movement going on. Okay, it's a lot of deliberation over this one simple shape. So, and diminished shapes are cool. They're pretty easily applicable in a lot of cool metal songs, but let's go over just some of the regular shapes, going over the top three strings, some other sweep shapes, and then we'll get into extending them and making them longer. Let's start with major. I'm going to start most of these shapes where the root is on the B string. So let's do E. Right, so we have there. Sorry. You have your E note here. Right? We're going to do an E major sweep, just chilling out on the top three strings. Okay, so here's the shape very slowly. Cool. Pretty cool shape, and it kind of takes after like a major shape right here. Think like root on the A string also, technically. You know, like if you know your cage system, it's like a C shape for E, basically. And you're carrying it, and you're just playing the top of it. Again, same thing. with this type of shape, if your right hand is fine but your left hand isn't fast enough, you can isolate. And you can learn how to play it fast like that before you want to throw the right hand in. Do it whichever way you think you're going to build your different parts together. So that's easy. Now let's make it minor. If you know anything about your chord theory or scale theory, and you can look at, like, see your scales or whatever, you should know where your third is in relative to your root note. So our third is here. That's our major third, which makes it a major chord. So we're just going to drop that by one, and now it's a minor. And you find this minor sweep shape happening a lot. Kirk Hammett likes to use it on the E an octave up from here. So he'll be chilling out in the pentatonic or whatever, and then when he gets up here... Marty Friedman used this shape in the Hangar 18 solo, but like with one extra note behind. You know, the... You know, that one? So there's a bunch of different ways that you can find these notes. So I think it's just important for you to get accustomed to the different ways in which your fingers are going to have to jump. This pointer finger jump on this shape is where a lot of people get really messed up. So just practice switching even between them as well. I would switch between major and minor. That's pretty cool for like a metal tune. You could have something like that going on with like some cool chords in the back. Or follow it on your chord scale. You would have to learn, I guess, the, well, I don't know. And then, what would it be? You could do the minor scale and then just skip the second one for now, because we're not going to go over the half diminished arpeggio, or just like, you could just do another minor there if you want. Something, some sort of passing thing. But you could go minor, and then another minor. Right? Doing it, any of those types of runs, those are really healthy for your right and left hand for moving across. But when you think full sweeps, you probably think any of these like larger... any of those shapes like that. So let's do those. When I began to sweep, my instructor gave me the E minor sweep, and he told me to do all the E minor arpeggios for sweeping. And I started with this lowest one here, and you have to carry it formulaically all the way back, and I had to repeat this. And that made my left hand get so awesome, but I had to bash my head into a wall for like 2 days. So maybe you shouldn't start with something very low on the neck, but if you want to, here it is. And I'm just going to go over all the E minor full sweeps, and we'll change them into major, and then you'll probably have everything you need. So, follow my left hand closely. Watch. That's all you got to worry about. So you have this wide stretch, root, back here, then here, and then back here. And I would do this very slowly, get the right and left hand synchronized. I was a little flat there, hold on. And you'll notice this downstroke, hammer, down, down, hammer, down. Not down, up, down. You can if you want to. In fact, you can start like... You can do a thing where you down, up on the low and high parts of an arpeggio, but it's much easier on the right hand if you don't. So you have this shape here. Awesome. Now we're going to do the next one. You're going to slide way the hell up to your high E on 12, and you're going to do this shape. And this involves a new technique. I forget what people call it, like folding or something, or I don't know. It's where you're going to have two notes on adjacent strings on the same fret, and you don't want them to ring out at the same time. Watch this. So you have these two notes right here on the D and the G string for the shape. First, let me give you the shape really slowly, and then we'll talk about how to tackle this and practice getting this correct. Watch. Big wide stretch. Then you're going down like a minor chord here. And then you have to roll over for the same fret there. And then a regular minor interval here. Okay. Now let's go over this little bit here. Now, in these minor shapes, there's not too many instances in these first two of a bar. This is the first time it's going to happen. In the next one, there's going to be even more. And in the majors, there's tons of barring going on. So let's go over how you're going to perfect this to where you don't sound stupid, where you have these notes all ringing out together and sounding bad. You need to practice this little roll. So it's where basically how I would look at it is when you're descending, you're playing with a little bit of like the middle of your finger, not the exact fingertip. So your tip is able to roll back and not allow the previous string to ring out. It'll be muted. So you practice this little finger crimping motion. I might just practice this much going up and down. If you do practice an arpeggio where you're not ending with two notes, you're going to find issues with your right hand synchronization if you're used to the other shapes. So you're going to need to get good also if you're practicing this halfway through. After this upstroke here, you're going to need to get good at that upstroke, jumping over to hit a down on this string here, okay? Or else you're going to have two hits on this string and it's going to sound weird like this. You're going to have and that's not good. You need to make sure you don't have that. You need to have up, pull off, up, down. So that last up has to jump over the strings if you're doing repetitions in the middle. Like that, but go the full way if you can when you're starting off. Just be conscious of this bar here. Okay? Good. You have this shape. Now we're sliding up again to our minor third up here. And there's a lot of barring going on here. It's like 90% bar. This is really going to challenge you. I might practice just the top bit. You have a bar across all three of these strings on 12 here. And you have another bar here on the A and D on 14. And then you can go here. And then go back to your root here if you want, or just restart on the A. Okay, that's all of the shapes for E minor. We're going to go them really slow one more time just to make 1,000,000% sure you have them. And now you're back at the one you started on way up here. Okay, just an inversion, same thing. Same exact notes, octave up. And that's it, then you have them all. So, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Practice your dick off until you have all the minor ones sorted out, and then you make a major. Now, you could do it the way I showed you, where you just take every third in here and then sharp it to make it a major third, which is fine, but I might just show you them anyways, just so you have them at your disposal. So let's go back to the minors and just make them all major, okay? Here's the difference between these shapes. Minor first. Now major. Sorry, I had to... That stretch is going to kill you. Nope. There we go. So, this third here is different. And then you have that third there. So now you have a different usage of the fingers. As compared to the minor, it would be middle finger here instead of ring. Switching between them like that and giving yourself a pause between them is also a good exercise. You find a billion exercises repeating all these arpeggio shapes, stopping in different parts between them to get really good at just like switching between them. Anyway, here is the major. Easy. Now, this next major is probably the easiest shape if you're really good at this barring stuff. If you're not, it's gonna suck. So, you have a bunch of barring across like 90% of the middle strings here. It's a pretty easy shape. Right? Nah, that's a sharp 5. Oops. Okay, now slide up here. Now this shape is a little bit different. I think this one's also pretty easy. You have your bar up top. Now you have this note here, the other bar, and now major third there. So you have this. Cool. So those are your major and minor arpeggio shapes. Now, if you know your chord scale through any key, I might start like way up here. Right, and do all of them as they're rooted. And I'd skip the second for now until you want to learn about the second one later. So you do them with like this inversion where it's the root on the B, and they all have the root on the B, right? And you do it like that, thinking all the roots there. Or maybe you start with a different shape, like maybe you start here, right? Where you're thinking about all the roots on the high strings or whatever. You know. Like that. Or for the other shape, for the one that's like the big sweep, you might think about the roots on this string here. So what would I do? What is it? I might start way the hell up here. Another minor, another major. Yeah, I don't do that one a lot, as you can probably tell. Me struggling to think about it, but you get what I'm saying. So you're just like looking at your roots on the different strings and trying to apply these arpeggio shapes, or maybe you'll even do them all in one spot. So I'd see my E minor here, and then I want the 5, so I might think the 5 is here, and I might just do where that's the root on top. And then I do like maybe I want the 4, so either I carry the 5 down a half step, or maybe I find it in a different spot. Like maybe let's see. If I want the 4, I might do like with the root here or whatever. Right? You could do it any number of ways where you're switching between them for a 1, 4, 5, or any chord progressions you can do with arpeggios and sweeping them, which is super badass, and that's kind of like a Jason Becker kind of thing, doing like, you know, he usually likes to do major arpeggios, and those are fine. So that's mostly what I have to demonstrate. That's kind of it. One last thing I think I might touch on just a little bit is for this sweep shape here, the one with the root on the B string, I'm doing this with the B minor shape up here. Is that how I want to look at it? No, what am I thinking of? I'm not thinking of the B string root. I'm thinking of the high E root. I'm going to do it up here. This one. So with this like one, with this sweep here, there's a different way to do it where you can relocate the final minor third here. You can do this anywhere really, but this minor third, you might relocate it up to there, where you have a like this, where you have this start instead of that start. All the exact same notes. You can probably get them both the exact same speed. Switch between them. That's a good exercise too. It's literally the exact same arpeggio. You're just changing what string one of the notes is on. That's basically it for like the standard base level arpeggio package. This is a 27-minute video going over stuff you need to practice for like the next 2 weeks basically before you get like really fucking good. But yeah, practice your arpeggio shapes and going between them, either the inversions of one arpeggio or doing it through the scale. You know, any number of ways you can think, any cool exercises you can conceive of for any chord progressions or anything. Arpeggiate it and do arpeggios in it and make it cool. And practice switching on the top like I'm doing here, or switching on the bottom. Even though you might be repeating a note, it's still good for your hands to do. It's wide there. Hold on. Then there. Anyways, that's it. I'm just showing off. So, good luck. Enjoy practicing. Like the video if you found it helpful. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought. Listen metal, play metal, be metal. Have a pick. I will see you in the next one, whenever that is.